So, are you a workaholic or do you just really love your work? Is there really that much of a difference? Hey, David Essel here, 43 years, #1 best-selling author, counselor, executive coach, speaker, radio host. Oh my God, we do it all, right? But this is a very interesting topic, especially during these times. There's a lot of individuals that have gone heavily into the workaholic mode, and we'll make the differentiation on this short video. Is it workaholism, or do you just really love your work? You can always comment below, share these videos, of course, because we want to help people heal. That's our whole purpose of being on this earth. And we do it every day via videos, interviews, my one-on-one private sessions, etc. So we're here to help. And if you're struggling with this issue, just reach out to us at talkdavid.com. I'd love to help you. I have gone through this battle forever. Oh my Lord. I cannot remember a time that I wasn't questioning myself. Is this really a workaholic mode that I'm in? Or, do I just love what I do? The ultimate bottom line is you can make the differentiation fairly simply. If you're a workaholic, there's some signs that will instantly be registering with you. Are you using the time at work to stay away from an unhealthy or unhappy relationship, or unhealthy or unhappy home life? Are you using work to escape reality is the question I'm really asking. And we can justify, rationalize, and defend, well, I'm working to provide for my family, and I'm working to save for the future, and I'm working because I want to buy a new car, or I'm working because I have to put in this many hours just to survive. We can use all of those type of excuses or justifications or rationalizations. But the bottom line is that if we're using work to escape anything, to escape ourselves, maybe we're bored and we go, I'm bored, I'm just going to go and work. See, that is where the workaholic is. And then there's more signs that you're a workaholic versus just loving your work. Is that what is your self-care like? This is a huge differentiation. Workaholics don't usually have much self-care. What do I mean by self-care? Meditation, daily journaling, exercise, eating properly, getting enough rest. Of course, the workaholic probably doesn't get enough rest, right? And their lifestyle is off. They're not taking care of themselves. There is no self-care or minimal self-care. It's that drive to succeed. Now, I will also do a timeout here. If you're an entrepreneur and you're in your first 3 years of business, there's a darn good chance you're going to have to put in those hours. But it should be with the second portion that I talk about today, that you love your work. So let's be very cautious. If we are more irritable than normal, that's workaholism. If we're depressed more than normal, that's workaholism. If we're eating or drinking more than normal, that's not love of work. That's called workaholism. So we have to look at these differentiations, because if it's workaholism, we want to make major changes right now. The long-term negative effects on mind, body, spirit, relationships, and more from being a workaholic are incredibly detrimental to every part of our existence. So, a lot of people wear that as a badge of honor. Oh, I put in 18, 12, 14 hours a day. And they're proud of it, but their marriage or their relationship sucks. Their health isn't all that good. They're always irritable. Maybe they're road ragers in traffic. It's those kind of traits that we don't want. Now, let's jump to the other side of the track. When you really love your work, you might put in 10 or 12 hours a day, but you're going to find time for yourself. If you really love your work, you won't go into periods of depression or anxiety that are long-lasting, because you're doing something that you absolutely love. If you really love your work, you're going to have more energy and more passion for other times of your other parts of your life. Now, this doesn't mean that if you really love your work and you put in 10 or 12 hours a day that you're going to have all this excessive energy to go out and save the world. But there's a huge difference. How do you feel at the end of the day? If you really love your work, you're going to come home and you're going to be satisfied, even if you didn't get everything done, because you're doing what you love. If you really love your work, you're going to be excited after you have a great conversation on the phone with a client or a meeting or whatever it might be. And you go home and you're in a good mood. You might be tired, yes, because you're putting in a lot of hours, but you're not going to be that negative Nelly. You're not going to be that depressed Dan. You're not going to be that individual that comes home and instantly has to have a drink or a cigarette or a pot or something to calm down. If you really love your work, you could be exhausted at the end of the day and come home and have iced tea, or have a glass of water, I swear to God, or lemon water or seltzer or something. You don't need sugar or alcohol or nicotine or caffeine at the end of a workday. If you love your work, it says it all. if you love your work. It does mean that you may have periods of stress like inflation, or different things happen that screw up the business, and doesn't have to work perfectly, and you can still love your work. You could go through periods where you may feel like a workaholic because business has slowed dramatically and you're starting to get anxiety, but you bounce back from that. You don't stay in that mindset. Hey, if you need help, if you're on that verge of workaholism where you don't know how to get out of the workaholic attitude, let's work together. I've been there. I was a workaholic, and then I turned that into just simply a love of work. I'd love to help you do the same at davidessel.com or talkdavid.com. I'll put those links below. This is Good News with David Essel.